The bat, the birds, and the beasts say great conflict was about to come off between the birds and the beasts. When the two armies were collected together, the bat hesitated which to join. The birds who passed his perch said, "Come with us," but he said, "I am a beast." Later on, some beasts who were passing underneath him looked up and said, "Come with us," but he said, "I am a bird." Luckily at the last moment peace was made, and no battle took place, so the bat came to the birds and wished to join in the rejoicings, but they all turned against him, and he had to fly away. He then went to the beasts, but soon had to beat a retreat, or else they would have torn him to pieces. "Ah," said the bat, "I see now, he that is neither one thing, nor the other has no friends." The hart and the hunter. The hart was once drinking from a pool, and admiring the noble figure he made there. "Ah," said he, "where can you see such noble horns as these, with such antlers? I wish I had legs more worthy to bear such a noble crown. It is a pity they are so slim and slight." At that moment a hunter approached and sent an arrow whistling after him. Away bounded the hart, and soon, by the aid of his nimble legs, was nearly out of sight of the hunter, but not noticing where he was going, he passed under some trees with branches growing low down, in which his antlers were caught, so that the hunter had time to come up. "Alas! Alas!" cried the hart. "We often despise what is most useful to us." The serpent and the fillet serpent in the course of its wanderings came into an armorer's shop. As he glided over the floor he felt his skin pricked by a file lying there. In a rage he turned round upon it and tried to dart his fangs into it, but he could do no harm to heavy iron, and had soon to give over his wrath. It is useless attacking the insensible. The man in the wood. A man came into a wood one day with an axe in his hand, and begged all the trees to give him a small branch which he wanted for a particular purpose. The trees were good-natured, and gave him one of their branches. What did the man do, but fix it into the axe head, and soon set to work cutting down tree after tree. Then the trees saw how foolish they had been in giving their enemy the means of destroying themselves. The dog and the wolf. A gaunt wolf was almost dead with hunger, when he happened to meet a house dog who was passing by. "Ah, cousin," said the dog, "I knew how it would be. Your irregular life will soon be the ruin of you. Why do you not work steadily as I do, and get your food regularly given to you?" "I would have no objection," said the wolf, "if I could only get a place." "I will easily arrange that for you," said the dog. "Come with me to my master, and you shall share my work." So the wolf and the dog went towards the town together. On the way there the wolf noticed that the hair on a certain part of the dog's neck was very much worn away, so he asked him how that had come about. "Oh, it is nothing," said the dog. "That is only the place where the collar is put on at night to keep me chained up. It chafes a bit, but one soon gets used to it." "Is that all?" said the wolf. "Then goodbye to you, master dog. Better starve free than be a fat slave." The belly and the members. One fine day it occurred to the members of the body that they were doing all the work and the belly was having all the food. So they held a meeting, and after a long discussion, decided to strike work till the belly consented to take its proper share of the work. So for a day or two, the hands refused to take the food, the mouth refused to receive it, and the teeth had no work to do. But after a day or two the members began to find that they themselves were not in a very active condition. The hands could hardly move, and the mouth was all parched and dry, while the legs were unable to support the rest. So thus they found that even the belly in its dull quiet way was doing necessary work for the body, and that all must work together, or the body will go to pieces. The hart in the ox stall. A hart hotly pursued by the hounds, fled for refuge into an ox stall, and buried itself in a truss of hay, leaving nothing to be seen but the tips of his horns. Soon after the hunters came up and asked if anyone had seen the hart. The stable boys, who had been resting after their dinner, looked round, but could see nothing, and the hunters went away. Shortly afterwards the master came in, and looking round, saw that something unusual had taken place. He pointed to the truss of hay and said, "What are those two curious things sticking out of the hay?" And when the stable boys came to look they discovered the hart, and soon made an end of him. He thus learned that nothing escapes the master's eye. The fox and the grapes. One hot summer's day a fox was strolling through an orchard till he came to a bunch of grapes just ripening on a vine, which had been trained over a lofty branch. "Just the things to quench my thirst," quoth he. Drawing back a few paces, he took a run and a jump, and just missed the bunch. Turning round again with a 1, 2, 3, he jumped up, but with no greater success. Again and again he tried after the tempting morsel, but at last had to give it up, and walked away with his nose in the air, saying, "I am sure they are sour." It is easy to despise what you cannot get. The horse, hunter, and stag. A quarrel had arisen between the horse and the stag, so the horse came to a hunter to ask his help to take revenge on the stag. The hunter agreed, but said, "If you desire to conquer the stag, you must permit me to place this piece of iron between your jaws, so that I may guide you with these reins, and allow this saddle to be placed upon your back, so that I may keep steady upon you as we follow after the enemy." The horse agreed to the conditions, and the hunter soon saddled and bridled him. Then with the aid of the hunter the horse soon overcame the stag, and said to the hunter, "Now, get off, and remove those things from my mouth and back." "Not so fast, friend," said the hunter. "I have now got you under bit and spur, and prefer to keep you as you are at present. If you allow men to use you for your own purposes, they will use you for theirs. The Peacock and Juno. A peacock once placed a petition before Juno desiring to have the voice of a nightingale in addition to his other attractions, but Juno refused his request. When he persisted, and pointed out that he was her favorite bird, she said, "Be content with your lot, one cannot be first in everything." The fox and the lion. When first the fox saw the lion, he was terribly frightened, and ran away and hid himself in the wood. Next time, however, he came near the king of beasts, he stopped at a safe distance, and watched him pass by. The third time they came near one another, the fox went straight up to the lion, and passed the time of day with him, asking him how his family were, and when he should have the pleasure of seeing him again. Then turning his tail, he parted from the lion without much ceremony. Familiarity breeds contempt. The lion and the statue. A man and a lion were discussing the relative strength of men and lions in general. The man contended that he and his fellows were stronger than lions by reason of their greater intelligence. "Come now with me," he cried, "and I will soon prove that I am right." So he took him into the public gardens and showed him a statue of Hercules overcoming the lion and tearing his mouth in two. "That is all very well," said the lion, "but proves nothing, for it was a man who made this statue. We can easily represent things as we wish them to be." The ant and the grasshopper. In a field one summer's day, a grasshopper was hopping about, chirping and singing to his heart's content. An ant passed by, bearing along with great toil an ear of corn he was taking to the nest. "Why not come and chat with me," said the grasshopper, "instead of toiling and moiling in that way? I am helping to lay up food for the winter," said the ant, "and recommend you to do the same." "Why bother about winter?" said the grasshopper. "We have got plenty of food at present." But the ant went on its way and continued its toil. When the winter came, the grasshopper had no food, and found itself dying of hunger, while it saw the ants distributing every day corn and grain from the stores they had collected in the summer. Then the grasshopper knew, it is best to prepare for the days of necessity. "The tree and the reed." "Well, little one," said a tree to a reed that was growing at its foot, "why do you not plant your feet deeply in the ground, and raise your head boldly in the air as I do?" "I am contented with my lot," said the reed. "I may not be so grand, but I think I am safer." "Safe," sneered the tree. "Who shall pluck me up by the roots, or bow my head to the ground?" But it soon had to repent of its boasting, for a hurricane arose which tore it up from its roots, and cast it a useless log on the ground, while the little reed, bending to the force of the wind, soon stood upright again when the storm had passed over. Obscurity often brings safety. The fox and the cat. A fox was boasting to a cat of its clever devices for escaping its enemies. "I have a whole bag of tricks," he said, "which contains 100 ways of escaping my enemies." "I have only one," said the cat, "but I can generally manage with that." Just at that moment they heard the cry of a pack of hounds coming towards them, and the cat immediately scampered up a tree and hid herself in the boughs. "This is my plan," said the cat. "What are you going to do?" The fox thought first of one way, then of another, and while he was debating the hounds came nearer and nearer, and at last the fox in his confusion was caught up by the hounds, and soon killed by the huntsman. Miss Puss, who had been looking on, said, "Better one safe way than 100 on which you cannot reckon." The wolf in sheep's clothing. A wolf found great difficulty in getting at the sheep, owing to the vigilance of the shepherd and his dogs. But one day it found the skin of a sheep that had been flayed and thrown aside, so it put it on over its own pelt, and strolled down among the sheep. The lamb that belonged to the sheep, whose skin the wolf was wearing, began to follow the wolf in the sheep's clothing, so, leading the lamb a little apart, he soon made a meal off her, and for some time he succeeded in deceiving the sheep, and enjoying hearty meals. Appearances are deceptive. The dog in the manger. A dog looking out for its afternoon nap, jumped into the manger of an ox and lay there cozily upon the straw. But soon the ox, returning from its afternoon work, came up to the manger and wanted to eat some of the straw. The dog in a rage, being awakened from his slumber, stood up and barked at the ox, and whenever it came near attempted to bite it. At last the ox had to give up the hope of getting at the straw, and went away muttering, "Ah, people often grudge others what they cannot enjoy themselves." The man in the wooden god. In the old days man used to worship stocks and stones and idols, and prayed to them to give them luck. It happened that a man had often prayed to a wooden idol he had received from his father, but his luck never seemed to change. He prayed and he prayed, but still he remained as unlucky as ever. One day in the greatest rage he went to the wooden god, and with one blow swept it down from its pedestal. The idol broke in two, and what did he see? An immense number of coins flying all over the place. The fisher. A fisher once took his bagpipes to the bank of a river, and played upon them with the hope of making the fish rise, but never one put his nose out of the water. So he cast his net into the river and soon drew it forth filled with fish. Then he took his bagpipes again, and, as he played, the fish leapt up in the net. "Ah, you dance now when I play," said he. "Yes," said an old fish. "When you are in a man's power you must do as he bids you." The shepherd's boy. There was once a young shepherd boy who tended his sheep at the foot of a mountain near a dark forest. It was rather lonely for him all day, so he thought upon a plan by which he could get a little company and some excitement. He rushed down towards the village, calling out, "Wolf, wolf," and the villagers came out to meet him, and some of them stopped with him for a considerable time. This pleased the boy so much that a few days afterwards he tried the same trick, and again the villagers came to his help. But shortly after this a wolf actually did come out from the forest, and began to worry the sheep, and the boy of course cried out wolf, wolf, still louder than before. But this time the villagers, who had been fooled twice before, thought the boy was again deceiving them, and nobody stirred to come to his help. So the wolf made a good meal off the boy's flock, and when the boy complained, the wise man of the village said, "A liar will not be believed, even when he speaks the truth." The young thief and his mother, a young man, had been caught in a daring act of theft, and had been condemned to be executed for it. He expressed his desire to see his mother, and to speak with her, before he was led to execution, and of course this was granted. When his mother came to him he said, "I want to whisper to you," and when she brought her ear near him, he nearly bit it off. All the bystanders were horrified, and asked him what he could mean by such brutal and inhuman conduct. "It is to punish her," he said. "When I was young I began with stealing little things, and brought them home to mother. Instead of rebuking and punishing me, she laughed and said, 'It will not be noticed.' It is because of her that I am here today." "He is right, woman," said the priest. "The Lord hath said, 'Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old he will not depart therefrom.'" The man and his 2 wives. In the old days, when men were allowed to have many wives, a middle-aged man had 1 wife that was old, and 1 that was young. Each loved him very much, and desired to see him like herself. Now the man's hair was turning grey, which the young wife did not like, as it made him look too old for her husband. So every night she used to comb his hair and pick out the white ones. But the elder wife saw her husband grown grey with great pleasure, for she did not like to be mistaken for his mother. So every morning she used to arrange his hair, and pick out as many of the black ones as she could. The consequence was the man soon found himself entirely bald. "Yield to all and you will soon have nothing to yield." "The nurse and the wolf, be quiet now," said an old nurse to a child sitting on her lap. "If you make that noise again I will throw you to the wolf." Now it chanced that a wolf was passing close under the window as this was said. So he crouched down by the side of the house and waited. "I am in good luck today," thought he. "It is sure to cry soon, and a daintier morsel I haven't had for many a long day." So he waited, and he waited, and he waited, till at last the child began to cry, and the wolf came forward before the window, and looked up to the nurse, wagging his tail. But all the nurse did was to shut down the window and call for help, and the dogs of the house came rushing out. "Ah," said the wolf as he galloped away, "enemies' promises were made to be broken." The tortoise and the birds. A tortoise desired to change its place of residence, so he asked an eagle to carry him to his new home, promising her a rich reward for her trouble. The eagle agreed, and seizing the tortoise by the shell with her talons, soared aloft. On their way they met a crow, who said to the eagle, "Tortoise is good eating." "The shell is too hard," said the eagle in reply. "The rocks will soon crack the shell," was the crow's answer, and the eagle, taking the hint, let fall the tortoise on a sharp rock, and the 2 birds made a hearty meal off the tortoise. Never soar aloft on an enemy's pinions. The 2 crabs. One fine day 2 crabs came out from their home to take a stroll on the sand. "Child," said the mother, "you are walking very ungracefully. You should accustom yourself to walking straight forward without twisting from side to side." "Pray, mother," said the young one, "do but set the example yourself, and I will follow you. Example is the best precept." The ass and the lion's skin. An ass once found a lion's skin which the hunters had left out in the sun to dry. He put it on and went towards his native village. All fled at his approach, both men and animals, and he was a proud ass that day. In his delight he lifted up his voice and brayed, but then everyone knew him, and his owner came up and gave him a sound cudgeling for the fright he had caused. And shortly afterwards a fox came up to him and said, "Ah, I knew you by your voice. Fine clothes may disguise, but silly words will disclose a fool." The 2 fellows and the bear. 2 fellows were traveling together through a wood, when a bear rushed out upon them. One of the travelers happened to be in front, and he seized hold of the branch of a tree, and hid himself among the leaves. The other, seeing no help for it, threw himself flat down upon the ground, with his face in the dust. The bear, coming up to him, put his muzzle close to his ear, and sniffed. But at last with a growl he shook his head and slouched off, for bears will not touch dead meat. Then the fellow in the tree came down to his comrade, and, laughing, said, "What was it that Master Bruin whispered to you?" "He told me," said the other, "never trust a friend who deserts you at a pinch."